Welcome to the Dad and Joe Show. This is the Dad.
This is the Joe.
And this is the show where fathers and sons talk about issues so that we remain awake and
Sober.
Today we're going to talk about mercy. In my 20s, I worked for one of my teachers that I had in school and then taught with. And we'd go paint houses in the summertime. And he would do the rolling and I would do the trimming. We had a couple other guys in the crew. But we would always listen to a talk show while we wrote. And in this talk show, it was a woman psychologist who talked about family issues. Well, at the time, the guy that I worked with had a daughter, and he would share what's going on in his family.
Yeah.
And of course, being the expert that I was, after listening to the talk show, I would give him advice, being single, unmarried. And I remember him looking at me and saying, you know, Dave, someday you'll have a wife and kids, and you'll get to try this out yourself. And at the time, I don't know that I had a whole lot of mercy for his situation, because you think, hey, this is the principle that you just heard the woman in the talk show. She had a solution. Why can't you make it work? And so I don't know that I had a whole lot of mercy for my friend and colleague in his situation at home. Well, that was my first experience understanding mercy. And since then, I have come to understand a little bit more that it's just not easy as applying principles in a talk show or a book and make your life work. And sometimes it's easy to confuse what's going on in another person's life. Think, oh, it's easy just do this, this, and this, and this, and they don't do it, and it's easy to judge them.
Right.
Versus giving them mercy. The reason why I think this is an issue for remaining awake and sober is sometimes we can fall asleep that we need mercy too. And in our own journey of fighting addiction or being sober, not only with areas of substances, but just being sober in life, we need to have mercy for other people who are just like us.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just think that it's helpful to give mercy so that we get mercy.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, about the mercy standpoint, honestly, I've noticed that, like, I guess I'm, like, plotting against another person, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, so, like, they can do it, but I can't because I get caught or whatever like that. Just like a situation we were driving, and I was driving, and someone just flew right past me, and I was like, man, I hope they get pulled over. And
like the guy just cut in front of me right here.
Yeah, no, and my dad just stopped me. He was like, I mean, like, what'd you say? You kind of just said that, just hope, like, you don't get pulled over or anything like that. It's like, you don't get mercy unless you give mercy. And vice versa, obviously. But there's, like, a whole total thing about that we're not going to go into, obviously. But, I mean, just along with that, there's a good Bible verse, Matthew 5:7, and it says, blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, there's another verse a little bit farther in Matthew. It's in that same part of Sermon on the Mount. I think it's Matthew 7:1, where it says, judge not, so that you are not judged. What does it say?
It says, judge not, that you be not judged.
So the whole concept, or to bring that part of Jesus, how he starts off in Matthew 5 verse, and then how he finishes in Matthew 7. I'll do it through a story. Two situations that happened in my 20s. I was single at the time.
And before you go into that,
yep.
I think reading until verse 4 would be really, like, nice.
Okay, go for it.
So it says, Matthew 7:1 says, judge not, that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there is a log in your own eye? And then it just goes on to talk about hypocrisy and how it all deals with that. And it all starts with being merciful and dealing with your own problems before you try to deal with someone else's. All right.
No, that's really good. So I'll share the two stories because it definitely relates to this.
Yeah.
I remember reading this passage, and I felt like the Lord was trying to teach me this whole ability of being careful that you don't judge, or when you do judge, the very area that you're not giving another person mercy, you don't get mercy back. It's actually a spiritual principle. If you judge, you actually get judged back in that same area. So two situations that all happened within a few months of each other. First one is I had just come home from Moscow. I spent a year teaching there, and I moved back in with my family. I had an apartment before then, but then after I got back from Moscow, I moved in with my mom and dad. And my room was downstairs, and I would come down at night. I'd get home later at night, and I'd come down the stairs, and my dad would be sitting on the couch just watching TV. And I remember thinking in my head, why can't he make better use of his time? Can all he do is just sit there on the couch and just watch TV?
Yeah.
And I just had the thought go through my head about my dad. I made a judgment about him. I didn't consider what kind of day he had or how he was feeling, or I didn't consider any of the situation at all. I just walked downstairs, for a week straight, he's sitting on the couch watching TV, and I judge him in my heart. Well, the next week, I think my dad probably had a different work shift or something like that. The next week I came home, I had no motivation whatsoever to do anything. I ended up sitting in the same couch all week long with no energy to do anything whatsoever. And I'm sitting there on the couch, and the Lord goes, so, ain't got no energy to do anything, huh?
Oh.
And he reminded me of the judging that I did of my dad.
Right.
I think about a month later, or maybe it was a month before, I had gone back to Moscow with some of the students that I had that had come to see me. So I was a teacher in Moscow for a year, and then I also led a team back to visit the same school that I had just taught at. So again, this is kind of a month or 2 months on either side of the situation that happened with my dad. We're walking along the street, and there's probably 12 of us, and one of the Russian teachers is leading us, and there's a person that is speaking in Russian, telling us about these buildings over here on the left, and then someone in English is translating it back to us, and we're all kind of in a huddle. So in my head, I'm thinking, I'm at the back, and all the kids are in front of me, and I'm kind of watching them because as a teacher, I'm supposed to watch them. Right? And you hope as a teacher that your students are gaining from the interaction and learning something.
For sure.
So a thought goes through my head, and the thought was, they're not going to remember this the second after that the person says this. This is the thought that goes through my head. As soon as this thought goes through my head, I'm hearing the person in English say, the name of this building is such and such, and this is what they use the building for. As soon as she says this, the girl next to me says, Mr. Sluka, what's the name of that building? And immediately, I totally forgot what this teacher had just said. She had just said it. And the Lord said, so you can't remember anything the second after they say it.
Yeah.
So, and I had a number of situations like this happen within about 2 months where God was showing me, if you don't give mercy, you won't get any mercy back. And the principle of when you judge someone, you end up having that judgment come back to you.
Right.
And the reason, that verse that you read about judging is the Lord really wants us to take care of our own stuff. And he wants us to be merciful to other people because we need that mercy too.
Yeah, for sure. Since I'm obviously not as, don't have the years on my belt of age, not saying anything.
That's okay. You have plenty of circumstances in your own life.
But yeah, I can't really think of off the top of my head any merciful or like situations like that.
I've got a scenario for you.
All right, go for it.
So you come back from Teen Challenge,
Right.
and you run into some other guys that might not be doing as well as you're doing.
Right.
What kind of thoughts did you have toward them initially?
You guys are weirdos.
Really?
I mean, like at first, I was kind of just like why? Just like it was popping in my head. Just because I like see myself in the situation, and I'm like, no, and I don't see myself in the situation. But yeah, I didn't really think of them too high. But
Because they were struggling and you were not?
well, just because they were doing stuff that, I mean, when I see, let's say, the light for like a metaphoric standpoint, when I see the light, I want other people to see the same thing I'm seeing, and I want them to join me in it. So if I see some people that are just not getting it, because obviously they haven't gone through the whole stuff that I did, when they don't see it, I automatically think to myself, like, how are you not seeing it? But it took me 9 months to see it, right? So
that would be a judgment or not giving mercy.
that would be a judgment where I would have to give mercy. And actually, before I give mercy, really think, like, okay, I've been gone for 9 months, and they've just been doing the same thing for while I was gone, but just without me, right? So it's like they haven't been going through training. They've just been trying to live their life and, do normal worldly things that will make them prosper.
Yeah, they're just
in the
living
world.
life.
Living life,
Yeah.
right? So right when I see that, I kind of ask, I'm like, all right, well, it's kind of the same. You're the same person, which is good and bad. But there's really nothing that besides just why. And then I think to myself, and I'm like, okay, like that's why. And I try not to just judge right away, and that's actually what I don't do. But along the way, if I'm like actually having a conversation with them, like I ask questions and give them like ultimatums or something like that, even though they don't have to like take them or anything like that. But
Like what do you mean, ultimatums?
like, I don't know, basically not telling them, or like asking them like why, like they're doing this, just questioning every single thing that they're doing, so that they think about what they're doing, and then tell them, okay, well, try not to do this until we talk next, or something like that.
So you're trying to help them with their addictions or a problem or something
Right,
like
or
that.
yeah, any type of problem, or just like a normal problem. It doesn't even have to be like addiction or substances wise. Just tell them, okay, like I want you to try this until this, something like that. Like I was on a phone with a friend, and they just like wouldn't stop cussing, just for no reason, and I was kind of just like, all right, for the next 10 minutes or until we hang up the phone, try not to cuss at all. Like I just kind of stopped them where they were talking, and they weren't even ranting or anything like that. They were just talking normally, and I was like, oh my gosh, why am I? This is not necessary. So I just told them that, and they did their best, stuff like that. And then the next phone call, they barely even slipped up, and they were like, and then at the end of the phone call, they were like, all right, how am I doing? So it was funny to see that, and just when you call things out and bring things to the light, how much people notice about themselves, which can be good and bad, because it can also make someone feel self-conscious. So you really have to wage how much you want to do that.
Sometimes people can feel judged.
Yeah, feel judged, feel victimized, stuff like. Is that the right terminology?
I feel like a victim.
Feel like
or
a victim.
Feel attacked, maybe.
Yeah. So just got to come at it the right way and know who you're dealing with.
Well, I suppose with this friend, they felt like you were just trying to be fun and be loving.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You had a feeling of mercy that you weren't judging or condemning them for it. You're just like, hey, why don't you try this instead?
Yeah. For sure.
Or at least they gave you the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I realize in the world, if you call anything out or just talk about issues, people can take things so personally and they can feel judged. And I think especially Christians get the bad rap of being judgmental. Sometimes because Christians can be super judgmental.
Yeah.
But Christians, above any other group of people, should be people who give mercy because we've received so much mercy from God. And we know the amount of mercy that we receive. So I think Christians should be the most merciful and the least judgmental, because we know that we've been forgiven and that God, as our judge, has looked at us through the lens of his son Jesus. And instead of condemning us, he actually calls us righteous because he gives us mercy.
Yeah.
But that's why Jesus said, blessed are the merciful, because they'll receive mercy.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
The sun keeps shifting. It's messing up the lighting for the camera.
Messing up the lighting.
Well, anyway, that's our thought for today, is blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. And that's something that I think is good for fathers and sons to think about. I'll throw in one other thing. If you ever, for any dads and sons that are dealing with addiction, or whether it's the dad or the son, it's easy when people find out about what you're going through to feel really judged, or people all of a sudden don't call you, or they're not sure what to say to you. And that's hard. It's hard to be judged. And it's important that we even extend mercy to people who judge us, because they just don't know.
Yeah.
And I've never found the time where I've chosen to give mercy that I've ever regretted it. I think we can assume the best about people and give mercy. That's always a good way to go. Whether it's the person that just cut us off when we're driving, a friend, a text sounds really mean and irritable. Texting is a lousy way to communicate anyway, but there's all kinds of ways, like little things that can get into our heads, and we can feel judged or condemned or attacked. And or we see something that somebody's doing wrong, and instead of judging them or condemning them or thinking poorly of them, just to give mercy and ask that God would come into the situation and he would help them. Because man, I know I need all the help in the world. And so with that, my mindset is, what I encourage you to have is, when you run into a situation, is to realize how much mercy that I need, how much mercy we need. Because in the same manner that we judge, we get that back. So if we extend a lot of mercy, I think that the Lord will give us a lot of mercy.
Right.
And if we choose not to be merciful, then we shouldn't expect any mercy in return. So I guess my encouragement for fathers and sons listening, have a discussion about this, maybe about areas where you felt judged, or areas that you judge, or if you're on your own journey of sobriety, be careful not to judge other people, but just give people mercy and let people. Everybody's got their own path to take.
Yeah.
We all need mercy, and as we give mercy, we'll certainly get it back.
Yeah, that's good.
Anything else?
Nothing else.
All right, that's all we got.
Peace out.